Hello, friends. Welcome to Rendezvous with Jamie McGlue. So, quick video to just talk about why we should all, any Irish citizens living in Ireland, why we should all spoil our vote at the presidential election this Friday. So, um, basically, um, the candidates have been pre-picked. It's like, Soviet communism thing where, or like at least in some of the communist countries like Poland, they would have elections, but you couldn't choose the candidates. Like they would pre-approve the candidates. So it's just like, who cares? It's, puppet on the left, puppet on the right, as, the famous Bill Hicks joke goes. Um, and so, Catherine Connolly and Heather Humphreys, yeah, there are some differences, but they're both in favor of all, these things, the top 10 massive existential threats we're facing. They're all like on board with it. Like, yeah, dismantle, the economy and individual freedoms in the name of climate change, even though the science is corrupt and CO2's, a nutrient, says the science, and the founder of Greenpeace and all this stuff. Like, you pump it into greenhouses to make plants grow faster, or the whole trans woke thing. Like, yeah, boys can be girls, girls can be boys. Like, that's not actually kind if we're going against reality. And like, this is a sensitive issue for some people, but like, it's no, like, we can get into it if you want, like the nature of we're all souls and we're not male or female. The body is male or female, and you're living as a male or a female, but you're actually neither. You're a consciousness. You're the universe. Um, but whatever. Um, but they'd be like all in favor of yeah, let the trans thing, yeah, sure, whatever, it doesn't matter. Or kids, we don't let kids, drink alcohol, but yeah, they can decide that they're a different sex. They're definitely qualified to do that. It's like or on and on. The COVID stuff, the totalitarianism that emerged through COVID, completely going against the science while they're such projection, saying you're putting people's lives at risk. You're not following the science. It's like, well, it's the exact opposite. The people resisting, they were the people trying to protect people's health and their lives. And we saw that the lockdowns and all of those things and all um, that those government measures, they were all terrible for everyone, caused a lot of death and destruction. They continue to. Anyway, point being, these two candidates, they're both on board with all this stuff: mass immigration, destruction of the native indigenous population, which is protected by the UN Charter on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Like, you have the right to your own space. You don't need to be multicultural. The Native Americans don't need to be multicultural and let everyone into their reservations. It's not racist if they say, no, we want to maintain our kind of vibe and our, um, not just our ethnic group, like our genetic group, but, and yeah, we want to all look like Native Americans. What's wrong with that, but also, just like culturally, yeah, we have our own perspectives and our own values, and it's like a culture is like a collective personality, and the Irish culture is very much under threat of, uh, dissolution and losing its heritage, which has already been dangling by a thread due to colonial um, attack over centuries. With the native language, apparently I think there's more Muslims in Ireland now than uh, me, um, people in the Gaeltacht, or at least Gaelgors in the Gaeltacht. Um, and you can have good people in any sect or religion, etc. But it is, I think that is very alarming when like the native indigenous population who are speaking the indigenous language in those traditional areas is smaller than people who definitely have not been here very long. Um, so anyway, they're all in favor of all of this stuff. And so Connolly, maybe she's like more like, or toward the working people, so to speak, even though she was evicting people working, during the financial crisis, helping, massive landlords and all that. So okay, maybe a champagne socialist, but uh they're all thick as thieves. They're all part of the same thing, and so you can, what's the point of voting for one over the other? So, and the thing is not just that, but like it's a totally artificial. This isn't more important even. Nick Delahanty had a massive following, and he revealed he's done a lot of investigative journalism kind of work, although he's like a lawyer by training, and uh, you know, like has his own businesses or whatever. But he was coming at it from a transparency angle. That's just and very reasonable, and talking kind of trying to get over this whole woke thing, demonizing people as far right if you disagree with them, if they don't want to flood the country with people from other countries, like all the other countries would. The same thing, they wouldn't take it anyway. And Maria Steen, kind of like kind of traditional values, Catholic kind of da 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 da. Being like, yeah, can we like actually kind of encourage families more, and um, whatever, not on board with the whole woke kind of thing. They were totally blocked off the ballot, and they weren't. There's already the thing of the points they're making being demonized, and not just by the funders, like the media and stuff, who are owned by massive corporations who also fund the election campaigns for the politicians who then make the laws. So there's this hidden hand of like massive finance running the place, not just post the IMF and Troika coming in and taking over, but for a long time it's been like this in Ireland. Um, all that American billionaire money coming in with low taxes, he who bring pays the bills, has a lot of power. And so, well, you have to do what I want. You get the money to spend, but hey, you can't go against what I want. So there's this entrenched power. But not just that influence, but even the state broadcaster, RTE, or TE, if you will, um, uh, refusing to allow people, I don't think they even talked to Delahanty, and I might be mistaken, but um, and Maria Steen maybe like briefly, like, um, but they're very keen to like let other people, the establishment voices get all the airtime, and so they're keeping them out, and they're also demonizing far right, um, uh, demonizing the ideas that these candidates are putting forward. So then people are going to feel like, oh, I would like to vote for this person, or maybe say a councillor or a TD being like, I would like to nominate Maria Steen or Nick Delahanty or whatever, but all the people around me, and then my constituents and all this, they might think I'm far right. Oh my God. So, it's really toxic. This, RTE, what they've been doing, and the whole, rest of their you know, massive corporations have enormous influence over the government. The government has dominant influence over RTE, control of it. Therefore, that corporate money does, it's not a coincidence that the policies which are really, really good for massive corporations don't get criticized on RTE, is it? You know, like, come on, like, wake up. This everyone knew this until this kind of after COVID. I think people got a bit uptight because they sensed, you know, the shit was hitting the fan, and people got very defensive, especially over certain divisive topics which were introduced in a very sneaky, clever way. But basically, we all knew forever that yeah, money corrupts people, and human beings are fallible, and that this is the way the world works. We have to be careful. But now, as it's getting to a point where it's like really scary, a lot of people are now starting to pretend, oh no, that's impossible. Humans are nice, and there would be no corruption. Anyway, point being, um, the election, legitimate candidates were blocked off the ballot. Maria Steen was, I think, needed one more nomination, and no one went, "Hey, look, okay, I'm not endorsing her, but I'm going to nominate her just because it looks really bad if the people clearly there's a lot of desire to have this woman um, running in the election, and uh, so I can just put her in there. I'll give her my nomination. Say I'm from Fine Gael, although, oh, Fine Gael, executive, party headquarters forbade them, said there'll be dire consequences if they nominated anyone, any independents, which is crazy, totally anti-democratic. Um, that, but that if they did that, well, yeah, if the people don't, if it is such a fringe thing, then yeah, the people, maybe 10% of the people vote for Maria Steen. Great. Now we can prove that it's a fringe thing. Or 70% of the popular 80% vote for her, and oh, actually we're the fringe and democracy wins. Oh, okay, well, win-win, right? Either you prove they're the fringe crazies, or actually you realize you were crazy or corrupt, and actually democracy is served. Um, which is what I'm very confident would have happened. Um, uh, and so, they maintain this sense that it's a minority who are opposed to the government, but it's absolutely the silent majority. Um, and which comes out through surveys where you find that 9% of the population are against mass immigration and all this stuff. But um, the so there was people kept off the ballot, and artificially by government intervention, and kind of we could say conspiracy basically, yeah, whether decentralized or how organized, who knows exactly, but some sort of definitely a concerted effort by people who make a lot of money from the status quo to kind of keep it going that way, and who get a lot of power off it, prevent this kind of change of reducing immigration, you may be pulling away from the EU, or reducing taxation, or not allowing more lockdowns, and no, not pursuing this climate change. We're going to take over your lives to save the planet because we love you and we love nature. But we don't talk about the overfishing, and we're totally happy to let foreign, massive vessels come in and just destroy the fish stocks in Ireland. And we're, we have no interest in pursuing regenerative farming, and we shut down anyone who has kind of like natural farming methods and stuff. And um, it goes on and on and on. If you pay enough attention, it's ridiculous. There's so many contradictions. It's clear that they're just talking the talk to cover up the fact that they're just interested in money and power, the dominant force. I'm not saying every politician, but and every person in the media and whatever NGO space, but definitely it's the prevailing paradigm, right? Um, and that makes sense if you think about human nature and where we are in terms of the development of our consciousness right now, including me. I'm not perfect. And that's the kind of scary thing. You got to realize if we had power, there's a good chance we'd be doing a similar thing. So we need to have compassion for everyone and just try to together get ourselves to go, hey, this is not right. We need to wake up. We need to take care of each other. Let's not be like demonizing groups and dehumanizing people. We need to keep it real. Anyway, okay, so they've kept people off the ballot, and um, the two options are basically the same. So if you stay at home, it's not counted, right? So it doesn't really matter. The status quo are happy. They'd much prefer you to do that than to come and spoil your vote. Because spoiling your vote is counted as a percentage, and if it's really big, it could be a scandal. And if it's big enough, then foreign governments and foreign media talk about it, and it bursts this whole thing of this tyranny which is going on in Ireland and around the place further abroad. It's all based on manipulation of perception. If people understood the truth of what happened in COVID, the truth of what happened in 9/11, the truth of what happened in whatever, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, or the truth of what's been happening for like a long, long time in many things, people just would not be behaving the same way. They would just see the world, change your perceptions, change your behavior. And so the whole system, the deepest power structure is the information and perception power structure. So that's why the media is so important. And history, that's why we don't really get taught the proper history of Ireland, and like the island of saints and scholars and how deep those roots go. And but the point being, like, if we can spoil the vote, there's a chance it can do something good for us in terms of getting reform, or we can have a directly elected president. Maybe people will be forced into that, and they can either choose between going with that and going, fine, we'll follow the report. By the way, this was recommended by a government report 20 years ago to do that, and they just didn't do it because it weakens their control over the power structure. Um, but uh, why else wouldn't they go along with that? It's easy enough to do, right? So, you know, reading between the lines clearly. Um, they can either go put it in place, and they can keep up the pretense of that it's a democracy in Ireland and in the West in general. Um, even while we're careening more and more towards like a Chinese kind of style thing of like oligarchical complete control, using capitalism as the engine for that, but just actually no due process, neo feudalism. The elites don't have to follow the law. The plebs can be beaten up by the law, and there's a million laws. So if you go against them, they'll catch you for something. So they can either uh, allow, say, we can have a directly elected president, and they keep up kind of the pretense to maintain the power structure, or they risk compromising that power structure and they refuse to make the reforms. We can kind of put pressure on them through perception, because there's certain points where, like trying to demonize the Irish flag, for example, things like this. It's like it's there's certain sensitive points where it's like the dragon's underbelly, where if we push, um, it risks waking up a ton of people who normally wouldn't be awake for more esoteric, nuanced topics. But it's like, wait, the flag? You're trying to say that they're not allowed to use the flag on around their houses because you disagree with their politics? That seems a little off, you know? Certain things like this, if we push, and I think this is one. So spoiling the vote, if a ton of people spoil the vote, then it kind of shows people, ah, it's not such a fringe thing, is it? Interesting. And oh, actually, yeah, I kind of agree with them. I agree with this 30% of the population who spoiled their vote or whatever, you know? And it can, so I think it's definitely worth doing. It may do nothing. The elections may be rigged anyway. I don't know. I'm open to all the ideas. I don't, I think uh, conspiratorial thinking, so to speak, oh, conspiracy theorist. Why is that bad? Why is it bad? It's bad if it's not based upon logic and evidence, i.e., if it's untethered from reality. And I agree with that. And there are people who would be like, yeah, these talking sapphires run the planet. There's these sapphires with legs. But yeah, okay, you're like out of your mind, you know? Um, Definitely you can go too far that way. But you can go too far the other way also, where you're untethered from reality and you're ignoring logic and evidence, where you say anything that the mainstream says must be true, you know? So, you know, um, so just saying there, I think yeah, we should spoil the vote. That's it. And so how do you do it? Yeah, just don't write the numbers. So turn up to vote. You need your voting card. Actually, no, I don't think you even need your voting card that they send you. I think it's just helps. But you need your like ID, passport or public service card or something, and go there and just don't write any numbers on the boxes, and just put like whatever you can write your own name, write the name of a candidate you would like to have in, write democracy, write no digital ID, as someone said, or whatever you want, you know. Um, yeah, and yeah, by the way, voting for Jim Gavin, like he is still on the thing. So if a bunch of people are like, yeah, let's put in Jim Gavin and then they'll have to do a rerun. Just a side note, but I'd say that's a bad idea. Like if he gets all the votes, for sure people will be like, hey mate, we'll give you $1 million, just be the president for us. And be like, yeah, cool, I get to be president. Awesome. I'm a cool guy. You know, I'm at the center of attention. Save the day. So not a good idea. Yeah, so that's it. I would say let's spoil the vote. And it's a small, if we can get a lot of people to do it, and I think we will, but please join us, be part of it. Don't just sit at home. I can understand the temptation and to think, oh, it's all stupid anyway. And yeah, it is stupid. But what's more stupid is, waking up a slave and looking back and trying to tell your kids why you did nothing, you know, to try and stop it because you're thinking, oh, it's spiritual, like, everyone's learning their lessons and it's karma, which is true, but also that doesn't mean you can't try to protect, the innocent and fight back against evil. Imagine if the main character in some movie was like, oh, yeah, but no, I think everyone's learning their lessons. I'll just let Voldemort go around and do what he wants. Yeah, no, wouldn't really admire that character, would we? Um, and then on the other hand, people are just like simplistically, oh, politics is so dirty, nothing changes, it's all pointless. Voting doesn't change anything. It's like, yeah, to a large extent, you're right. And we definitely need the core solutions lie in within developing our one's own awareness and communicating with others to help us all develop our awareness and then taking action in a decentralized manner, especially building your own self-sufficiency, getting land, growing food, gaining skills where we can be self-sufficient. And if these, power-hungry maniacs try and pull the rug out from under us, we're stable, and we're not all dependent and have to go along with them. Um, but also, yeah, we should take what opportunities present themselves, I think, and don't take it so seriously that you all get lost up in something where you have no sense of humor and you're all depressed and you make everyone around you just want to avoid thinking about these things. You need to have a twinkle in the eye, but also, um, yeah, we do need to do stuff. We do need to take action, I think, and we're all going to die at some point. So think about that, whether that's like 6 months from now or whether it's 60 years from now or whatever. Um, what do you want, you know, and you're looking back, like my influence on the world in general, did I really reach out and try to create a more beautiful world, If, that's something that I think is very important to me. And I think if you look within, I think it's important to everyone, that you're not just looking out for yourself, but you're kind of uh, a force for good in the world, leaving the place better than you got it, So anyway, it's a small thing, but if we can spoil the vote and get a lot of people doing that, I hope that will be helpful. So I'll leave it there. Gar mí agwaith gach bannacht ar an gobra.